Hi, my name is Pat, and this is my channel, Book Chat with Pat, and I'm glad that you're here. Today I'm going to be doing a weekly wrap-up focusing exclusively on the works that I read for week 1 of Rocket Summer. Rocket Summer is a new reading event taking place during this month of July. It was created by Michael K. Vaughn, and Michael is being ably assisted by a group of co-hosts, including Grammaticus Books, Books, Songs, and Other Magic, Genre Books, Another Bibliophile Reads, Mystery and Mayhem, Book Time with Elvis, The Literate Texan, Sean D. Standfast, Steve Donahue, The Bookclectic, and me. For this first week of Rocket Summer, we were asked to read early works of classic science fiction. That is, works that were written from the very beginning of science fiction in the 19th century through the 1930s. So week 1 ends at 1939. I read 2 books that I'm going to be talking about today. The first that I'd like to talk about is a novella that was written in 1938, and I read it on my Kindle. And that is John W. Campbell Jr.'s novella, Who Goes There? This was originally written under a pen name, Don A. Stuart. It first appeared in 1938 in Astounding Science-Fiction magazine. An extended version of the story was found, an early manuscript form of it was found, and has been published as the novel Frozen Hell. And that was published not too long ago. This story, Who Goes There, was also adapted into a film in 1951, which was known as The Thing from Another World, and it was then later adapted into another film in 1982, simply as The Thing. So this is the story of a group of American researchers in Antarctica. They have an outpost, and they discover purely by accident an alien spaceship buried in the ice, where it is believed that it's been buried there for about 20 million years. The crew of this scientific outpost attempt to thaw out the spaceship, and they end up destroying it. However, they are able to recover an alien who is also frozen in ice. So the researchers have an extended discussion about whether or not they should try to thaw out this alien. And there's real disagreement about whether they should do that and what the ramifications of doing so might be. It course, to have the story here, they have to thaw this thing out and find out what it is and find out what it can do. So when they thaw out this creature, somehow it gets revived, and they discover that this is a really creepy alien creature that is something of a shapeshifter that can take on the form of whatever living being it destroys. Well, what happens, of course, is that it destroys, at least to start, it destroys a member of the crew and is able to become what appears to be another human being. Campbell creates an incredible sense of suspense, which is powerfully enhanced by this growing paranoia among the crew, because nobody really seems to know whether the person standing next to them is actually the person that they think, they know from their crew, or is it the alien who has now inhabited that person's life form. So there's just an incredible sense of distrust and paranoia that spreads like wildfire, because nobody really knows who anybody is. And this sense of suspense alone makes the reading of this story from 1938 worthwhile, as it moves toward, rapidly, as it moves toward its really stunning conclusion. I haven't seen the films yet. I kind of want to check out the 1950-something version first, and maybe then the 1982 version. But I'm definitely going to look for them, because I was spellbound by this early story. Next, I read H.G. Wells' The Time Machine. This was written in 1895. This is probably not the first work that dealt with time travel, but certainly it is a very early one, and it is one that captured the imagination of readers back then, and it continues to do so still today. The novel is told in the form of a frame narrative. And by that, I mean that there's an outside narrator who is one of the guys who has been invited to hear the story of the time traveler. So this narrator doesn't have a name, and in fact most of the characters in the novel don't have names and are known simply by the title of what it is that they do. So for instance, within this group there's the doctor, the psychologist, the mayor, the journalist, the time traveler, and there's the narrator. So the narrator is one of the people in this gathering of men. And then he gives over the narrative to the time traveler, who then tells his story of how he has created this time machine and how he has traveled into the very, very far distant future. And then at the very end of the novel, the outside narrator comes back again and closes the story. So this narrator frames the device, and then inside his narrative is the time traveler's story. And that makes up the bulk of the novel. So the time traveler tells this futuristic tale about his trip via his time machine into the far distant future of about 800,000 plus AD. And those listening to him, this group of sort of nameless people, don't really know whether, he's just completely lost his mind, or whether they should believe this story. So the time traveler tells what seems to be an unbelievable story of these two species that he encounters, the Eloi and the Morlocks, that he found in the distant future. These species have left him horrified, really filled with despair about the future of his own human race, because he believes that these species that he has encountered are actually a degenerated version of the human race. when the time traveler first lands in this, excuse me, this year of 800,000 plus AD, he encounters the Eloi. And at first, he thinks that they are these very beautiful human beings who have, who live surrounded completely by beauty in a world of perfect harmony. So at first, he's encouraged because he thinks this is what the future is going to hold. He thinks that life on Earth is life in paradise. He rescues one of the female Elois from drowning, and her name is Weena. And he develops this great affection for her. He describes her in a kind of childlike way, so it's not really clear whether he has kind of paternal feelings toward her or whether he has some other kind of feelings toward her. She definitely feels great affection for him and wants to remain close to him, and he kind of carries her around through a good part of the narrator. Soon, however, the time traveler realizes that his initial impressions of these beings, his initial impression is actually not correct. He discovers that these creatures are actually being tormented by and hunted by another species of creature who live underground, and they thrive in darkness. This species becomes known to the time traveler as the Morlocks. At first, he thinks that the Eloi represent the upper classes, the aristocracy, the haves, if you will, and that the Morlocks represent the workers who produce wealth for the Eloi, the haves. These are the have-nots. That's his initial impression of what's going on here. And then soon he has to revise that impression when he realizes that he doesn't have this configuration quite right. He soon learns that the Morlocks of the underground, who only come above ground at night, do so because they are hunting the Eloi upon whom they feed. This realization leads the time traveler to a further horrible realization about the future of human beings and the future of the two classes in his Victorian English society, the aristocracy and the laborers. He soon realizes that his society has actually evolved or devolved, if you will, into this totally weak and ineffectual class of Eloi and the brutal, savage Morlocks. So, this novel was written about 35 years after Darwin wrote his On the Origin of Species. In Wells' book, present-day humans have broken off into two species, neither of which suggests progress from his current time. The Eloi are totally helpless. The Morlocks are vicious cannibals. Both species have lost the ability to think for themselves, and they've lost language. The Eloi we're supposed to see as descendants of the British elite, and that class has now totally degenerated into weak, helpless, ineffectual beings. And the lower classes have evolved into cannibalistic savages. The novel is meant to be a cautionary tale about societal divisions in Victorian England. The elites, through their exploitation of the poor, have actually completely regressed through the ease of their living conditions. And now they're completely unable to do anything for themselves. The Morlocks have descended from the working class, and they have worked underground so long they can't function above ground. They can't even see in the light of day, and they can only come out in the dark of night. And then it is to feed on the elite Eloi. In Wells' view, the extreme divisions of Victorian society, if these are not remediated, he believes, will lead eventually to the degradation of both classes, with each one embodying the worst of human characteristics. Of course, the time traveler, now returned to his present day, is telling his story to a group of the elite. He's talking to a doctor, a psychologist, a journalist, a politician, etc. Other characters who are not named. These are the people who could effect change if they chose to do so. But of course, first, they would have to believe the time traveler. They would have to believe that he is not just a crazy person and that he is telling a tale, a future warning about something that he has seen that is destined to occur. They would have to believe him first. I'm going to leave it at that. As always, I thank you for watching. I hope that you're doing well. I'll speak with you again soon. Take care.